Yeah. So, hello everyone. Welcome to today's talks by Miss Anjali from PRM 34. She is the founder of Sunahari Mitti, and the topic of today's talk is real life sustainability. Begin at home. The session will be moderated by Mr. Srihari from the same batch. And without further ado, let's get started. Please mute your microphones and note that this session is being recorded. Over to you, Srihari sir.
Thanks, Krishna, for that. Hi, everyone. So right at the onset, I just want to thank IEA for this platform that allows us to listen and learn from alumni across all walks of life. And I was just speaking to Krishna and Ritesh, and I just mentioning that I've come to realize that there's actually a lot of effort that the volunteers put in. So kudos to them, and hope that the platform continues in the new year to expand and grow and give us more wonderful sessions like this. Hello to everyone tuning in, wherever you are in the world today. I hope 2024 has been good for you. And as we move into that time of the year where hopefully we get a chance to reflect and plan and make resolutions on how we can, to make better versions of ourselves going into the new year. I think today's conversation is perfectly timed to add to that, considering the topic is real life sustainability and how small daily choices can make a significant impact on ourselves, the people around us, and probably the planet as a whole. So a very warm welcome to all of you. As Krishna mentioned, our speaker today is Anjali from PRM 34. Anjali is a sustainability coach and eco-educator. She's the founder of Sunahari Mitti, an initiative which promotes sustainable living and effective waste management. She's the co-author of a book on mindful consumption. And to add to her further accolades, she's also a TEDx speaker on the topic food, people, and planet. She regularly conducts these sort of workshops and sessions on themes of corporates, nonprofits, educational institutions. So this is right up her alley, is what I mean. She's again involved with a variety of environment conservation group and initiatives, a little too many to be in fact. But I've had the more than all that, all what she does in her professional life. I had the, privilege of knowing Anjali for over a decade now. We both are getting old, Anjali. I've known her as a classmate. I've known her as a colleague. I've known her as a very close friend. And I think right from our IRMA days, two things have sort of very clearly stood out about Anjali. The first is she's always had a very deep concern for the environment and the actions that you can take to change it. And secondly, she's had a fabulous commitment to working with people at the grassroots level to make a difference. So over the decade or so, I've seen that passion evolve and morph into various shapes and finally become the version that we see today. And it's been a journey that I followed at very close quarters with a bit of jealousy and a lot of satisfaction. So again, as you will see when we speak to Anjali, she's also one of the most gentle, the most kind and pious souls I've known. And this is definitely you're going to see through that when you speak to her, even for a couple of minutes. And I believe she's absolutely well placed to, to do and to speak about this topic and give us practical tips on how we can, do it better. So welcome, Anjali. Really, really wonderful to have you.
Thank you so much, Riyari. With all these kind words, I'm like more pressurized and nervous now, probably. And I have to make sure there are not too many projects as well. So, but thank you.
Perfect. So a bit of housekeeping before we get started. So essentially, this is, as I mentioned, towards the end of the year, we don't want to keep it too technical or give you too much details. This is just structured as sort of a fireside chat. I'm very curious about what Anjali does, and I want to have a chat about her, and hopefully you can all learn from this conversation. So at the beginning, I'm going to probably ask a few questions on the topic as starter questions to just, to sort of go first and understand her perspectives. There's going to be a middle section where hopefully she gets a chance to deep dive into the topic itself. And towards the end, a sort of reflections in summary on what it is. And we'll have questions, separate section for questions. So meanwhile, my request is that if you have questions, please do post it in the chat, and I'll try to monitor them the best of my ability and try to bring in into the conversation itself. But if not, we'll definitely have a session towards the end where she takes all the questions and we'll get Anjali's response on that. So hope that's okay. And perfect. Let's get started. All right, Anjali. So right off the bat, I just want to, sort of ask you as to, so what is real life sustainability and what does it mean to you as a practitioner and an educator?
Right. So, whenever we hear this word sustainability, now the trend, it's kind of trending, and everyone is associating with it. Either it's a small business, big business, homegrown business, anyone. But the major points which strike quickly are like renewable energy, uh, electric vehicles, and we are talking about getting more technology to turn things and make designs which are more sustainable, saying which are in align with the environmental practices and not harming the environment much. But when I think sustainability from my own perspective, it's like smaller steps which can make kind of bigger impacts. Smaller steps, as in steps which I can start with. And when I say steps, not only the actions oriented, but also thought process around it. So whenever, if I'm saying, if I'm practicing kind of things which are not harming the environment, which I'm doing at my own home, so I'm very mindful about those and I'm practicing those things. So when I go to my work, I'm again mindful about some of these things. And probably while I'm planning an event or making and developing a project, I'm again mindful about those small aspects which are in align with the environment, and making and ensuring that my practices at home also somewhere aligns with my work. It's not necessary it will, the same practice will be replicated there, but that thought process would definitely generate something innovative there as well, or in say alternate way of doing a certain thing which is more aligned with harming the planet less probably. So that's like real life sustainability for me.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So again, one of the things that you should know about Anjali, guys, is Anjali practices almost to the letter of what she preaches. So this is not just a concept that she talks about; she does it to, absolutely to the letter. So Anjali, so now that you mentioned about it, so how has your journey into this space been? And how did you have that sort of mindset growing up? Because I definitely know once you are in IRMA, you had some inclination towards it, but even prior, were you inclined towards this, and how has your journey shaped up?
Probably yes. So if I look back to my childhood days, I have been a person who won't spend too much, or who would be very happy receiving the old books from my seniors for school sessions. Like if I'm promoted from sixth standard to seventh standard, I'll go to my senior's place and get her books, because there will be notes written and I would be happy. Okay, some answers, some doubts have been already solved. And that gave me a lot of happiness. I never asked for like new books. I was like younger sister at home in a big family, so all the elder sister would pass on their clothes to me, and I would feel very stylish kind of a person wearing their clothes. So these are small things which I anyways did then. I of course never thought it's sustainable or it's good. It was just a natural way, and somewhere I feel it comes from my father, because he's also a pretty grounded person and values resources, money, everything very dearly. So it started there, and now moving forward, while I'm here at this place, I've given it a word sustainability. And because obviously things have been changing around with the generations now. Now everyone has to buy a new textbook because first syllabus are changed. If not, then there's a craze for new textbooks and books. So that way it kind of emerged, and it started at childhood level, never realized. In college it got more strengthening, where we were talking, doing projects, telling people not to litter here and there, just being vocal at smaller things. Okay, you cannot litter here, pick your trash and put it in the dustbin, very basic thing, but we were doing projects around this in our bachelors. So that gave vocal kind of a voice around it. When Irma was surrounded with this social space and the sympathy, empathy feelings flowing around, and field works, going to field, meeting so many different kind of people from all sectors of work. Even in field visit, so many times it used to happen that during the conversations it's a realization. Like, for a very basic example, in a farmers empowerment project, we are talking to farmers discussing about water conservation technology, and the narrative goes like, so much water is waste if you do open flood irrigation, so you should either invest in drip, and it's like, if it will cost you a good amount investing in drip, right? But we are expecting farmers to take that first move. So these were the points where it struck. We aren't talking this way to urban people who are maybe taking 30 minutes in the shower just de-stressing for the day. So where is that kind of a narrative for urban dwellers as well? And whenever we are talking to farmers, there's always like array of climate change things happening. We anyways know the reason behind it. We are preaching to the ones and expecting from the ones who are most struggling, suffering. And on that side of the table where we are the privileged ones, we aren't doing much about it. So where is our contribution then? At least if they are fighting such a hard battle and they are going to change their way, let's start changing our ways too. So that's how environment education started coming in my mind, that let's talk to urban school kids, students, about these kind of small things of saving water, saving energy, and inculcate these smaller things. This was pre-COVID and it never took off back then. It did not work out. But during COVID, what happened? Along with this, I was also I started practicing composting by chance. So I never thought I would be composting, but moving to the new city, like nearby our house, there was this garbage heap, roadside dump. It's everywhere, and the cow dogs would be there around every time. And cows would be looking for food, trying to open those plastic bags with mouths, and with food, it happened to be twice and thrice. I just saw them gulping the plastic bag, and I couldn't do anything. So that was the time I was like very pained by the thought that my waste, it could be my waste. Like, I did not dump it there, but it could be my waste. I don't know where the collector did dump the waste. So that was the point I started reading about what can be done, and composting came up. I started, and it did work out for me. So that was the very first practice of sustainability, I would say, I adopted, and I loved it. And I started blogging about it, why people should take care of their waste. It started from there officially. And during COVID, what happened when everything was going online, people were interested in these composting workshops. So I started taking these composting workshop as like, because I wanted to promote that message. And it did well. There were a number of workshops happening with NGOs, with society groups, and everyone around, and people were interested. Kitchen gardening came along, and it was the like, because everyone is at home, they need activities. But gradually what happened was, few corporates also came up. So one of our batchmate, Kirti, she introduced me to Godrej, and we did a workshop with Godrej, and they paid for that session. And at that point I was very excited. Oh, I can get paid for these kind of things as well. And from there, I started thinking about, what if I also turn it into my professional career kind of a thing. So the churning started there, but of course, it did not happen for over 3 years. But recently, of course, I finally quitted my job. Would be It's just, say, 14 days now, but I'll be looking more forward to developing Suneri Mitti, which came just like an Instagram handle and a website to promote this message. But now I really want to build it forward as an organization and work towards climate literacy. So yeah, number of experiences around, from childhood to IRMA to field, everything contributed to this particular concept for sure.
That's fantastic. So the key important point that I also understand from that is that because you realize how much traction an idea like this could have once you put it out into the world and then got it right. So were you surprised by that? Were you surprised by such a simple thing as you point out? It's a very simple thing, but incorporating these changes. Were you surprised that so many people love the idea, give you support?
Of course, I was, because I was just looking it as a thing which I like to do in my side time. But the monetary, for sure, because I had to work, I had to earn something. But just looking at my interest, linking it with the monetary thing, so that ikigai framework happening around. So I love it
Right.
the most. I want to do that. The world needs it, and it's also, I'm also getting paid for it. So it kind of summed it up.
Fantastic. So that's your journey, Anjali. So I just want to understand. So where do you stand at the moment? So what are you currently doing? I touched upon it very briefly, but I want to hear from you as to what exactly you're doing currently to advance the cause. What initiatives are you involved in at the moment? And
Right.
would love to hear that.
Right. So, while everything was happening, I fixed my mind, quit my job. Meanwhile, I tried building a few of the initiatives. So while I was in Ahmedabad, there was a very good ecosystem. Like when I say ecosystem, there were people who were doing the walk, the talk sustainability thing, not just to walk, to like talking more about it, but they were practicing it as well. So it gave me more perspective about what all can be done, because composting, waste segregation, kitchen gardening were like few of the things which I was doing at home. But meeting those people there were n number of things on the platter where I can learn and work more. There only with that community we started talking about waste. There were people who were interested to just discuss waste as in how are the corporations working, what happens with the waste, where are the recyclers located, where I can give my waste along with that, what are the startups coming around, how are they thinking and they processing it, what are their challenges. So we were doing many discussions and interactions around waste, focusing on composting and other kind of waste as well. And there were a number of activities happening in Ahmedabad itself around environment, trees, cleanups, or circular economy, number of models. So I got a chance to explore it there. So while moving back to Bharuch, when I came back, I started implementing those uh, themes in smaller way. Of course, scale was smaller here, but I started doing that. So cleanup drives, doing few sessions in colleges. I did a session in IRMA as well last year, and this year we did it in NIRMA. So it was pretty interesting to see. Okay, students are they. I mean, I think they should already know about this, because in IRMA we were very close to reality somehow, but in other colleges it doesn't happen that way. So it's like kind of a relatively blank plate, I should say. So they are very in awe of things, knowing these things, what happens to what things, and how is the scenario out there. So yes, it's kind of interesting interacting with these college students. Even in Baruch, we worked with the college students, master students, planning up a whole community movement where we are planting trees, cleaning up the sites, beautifying the sites. Uh, Again, Diwali, we did our, like, I should say it's like a big project for me doing it first time here in Bharuch alone by myself. But we could just divert around 2 tons of waste from landfills, which means 40,000 kgs of carbon dioxide emissions have been reduced, because these items would be now sent to recycling. If they would have been in landfill, they would have emitted gases. So, just to give a clear perspective, 40,000 kg of carbon emissions are equivalent to, say, indirectly planting around 2,000 trees. Okay, so 2,000 trees, that data comes across one tree, absorbs 20 kg of carbon dioxide in a year. So if I have just reduced 40,000 kg of carbon dioxide, it comes up to 2,000 trees. So I did not do anything. I just asked people to give me their waste. I send that waste to recyclers, and we collectively have planted 2,000 trees sitting in our homes, in our comfort zones. So these kind of things, circular loops, I'm trying to build here. Currently in my city, and moving forward, let's see. Moreover, these sessions which I'm talking about, colleges are, of course, they come when they come, and it's in physical in colleges. I do travel for that, workshops, I do travel for that. But these kind of initiatives which need more of a physical presence are currently here. So yeah, brief.
Fantastic. That's a lot on your plate. But quick question there. So you split your time both in between let's say there's one part of you that does the practitioner role, where you go ahead and make sure that you reduce the environmental impact of what is there, and there's a part of you that does the education. How is that split? How are you managing things between this? How does it feel running both sections of that? Yeah.
Oh, one point I thought I can only do one thing, but then of course, uh, interestingly, with this drive, we did a lot of awareness sessions as well in schools. So in 9 schools in Bharuch, we reached approximately to 15,000 students, and do, doing these sessions with students also, we don't scare them. I try not to scare them because it's a dreadful scenario. I know, so I try to build a story around this is the problem, and you being so young, and how you can be the superheroes and contribute to saving the planet or saving the city, making it more green and helping me around. And these people are like very bubbly and very curious about, okay, we'll help, and very excited about. And in the end of the session, these young people usually come up and they share what they feel. So there have been narratives, they are saying, we never knew what happened to the waste, food waste. We threw it so bad. I won't be throwing it. I take a pledge in front of you, I won't be throwing it. Oh, composting sounds so good. I would love to learn composting from you. Oh, plastic harms marine life. I never knew it. I won't throw my plastic chips packet anywhere now. I'll be very careful. So these small anecdotes just like push me around. Okay, to it's good to interact with people. Just doing it at home is one thing which I am content with, but just interacting with more people is giving me a voice again, making the impact larger. And if people are ready to receive it, why not? So that's how it kind of works.
Fantastic. So I think we have a question that's very relevant here that with this post, which is essentially, do you see any problems or challenges other than the awareness resistance part of it? How has your work been received? What have you learned with your interaction with corporates, with other groups? How has this, what are the key challenges that you faced and key successes you've had?
Yeah, sure. So awareness part goes pretty smooth. Everyone is they understand the whole scenario, climate change, they understand issues with waste management, they understand. So if they're getting any kind of more new information around it or more events around it, they're very happy to learn. Uh, Usually the funding or the monetary part doesn't work here. Whenever a monetary angle comes to it, people take a back step. So that's the challenge, because I thought I'll work a way where I'll work this and make money out of it as well. So I can just focus on this and I don't have to divide myself into another job. But eventually, uh, at 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 some places, it's not very paid kind of concept is not very well welcomed. Awareness is for sure. So these all the school sessions we did, it was just out of our want of doing it and sharing it further. Similarly, the concept everywhere, even in the government offices, corporates, everyone has a very motivating and kind of, they do tell this is need of the hour. You are doing a great work, you are doing great job, you should keep doing it. Okay, but there's an end. I'll keep doing it. Challenges come. I'm one person. I cannot run around the whole city at once. I need a team. How do I build a team then? There's a limitation and a challenge here. I can't scale up for this waste collection drive because it was operationally required a lot of logistics. I couldn't manage it all alone, but because fund was a restriction, I had to limit the size of this places was engaging with. So that's okay. Currently, this is one of the main challenge. Corporates again understand the value of the concept, but they are not ready to put time, energy, efforts, and resources into this. Probably in this particular area, I'm talking about Bharuch and Gujarat. I'm yet to approach lot more people. My approach has been pretty uh, it hasn't been aggressive yet. It will go now. So as far as my understanding is here, kind of uh, like, yeah, it works out. When it comes to awareness, implementation part is a bit more challenging.
Understood. So is it also looks like, so this are challenges that you mentioned from your uptake and the organization giving you opportunities to do that, etc. But once you've done the workshops or once you've done the session, how has that been received? Has there any challenges there? And do you see evidence that some of this actually translate to action, both at an individual level or and at the organization level? So that'd be something that would be curious to hear.
Yes, for sure. So, translation for these kind of things, it's pretty low. People do come back with doubts and questions if they are doing it, but to be very true, the number is less. And I think just one time interaction for like 40 minutes, it's not sufficient for it.
Mm,
I was triggered by some point, some reason, and I started it. And when once
sure.
I started, I kept getting more reason around it. And if you haven't started even one thing, it's very difficult to push yourself to that. So unless and until there's a trigger point or one person takes you through step by step, or by step, not like do this, do that, but uh, logically trying to make you understand the concept, or a conversation which goes on to and fro for some time, then it makes more sense. These one time small session engagements aren't that powerful or effective, I would say. So
Understood. So for you, I believe that that's a very valid point that you brought up. That trigger point is super important for anyone to get motivated enough for that action. And you mentioned for you that trigger point came when you saw cows looking at that looking at waste and then probably consuming that, and that triggered for you how much harm it can cause. But so if you can't simulate that, it's not something that you can simulate for other people, right? You can go ahead and tell them that. So how do you sort of manage it then? How do you still get them to act upon this if there's no visible trigger for them?
right. So currently, if I'm talking about a workshop, let's say pick composting for instance, everyone's going through this waste problem in different ways in their cities. They are observant and observing, and they understand that they need to be part of the solution as well. They are ready to accept that as well. But where does the barrier come? Okay, you can be the part of the solution, Srihari, but you have to start composting for that. So Srihari
Right.
will be like, oh, I don't want to invest my time. It's a tough process. I don't have space at my home. So this conversation goes further. So what space do you need? What setup do you need? It's a DIY thing. How much time it will take? Hardly 1 minute. And this is the process you go around. We don't I don't explain the process like I am explaining right now, but I'll show them the demonstration with the whole. I think you have seen like number of posts of those earthen pots around. So that sets up a relatability, like seeing is believing kind of a concept. So it kind of works in that way. For n number of practices, like for kitchen gardening, also we do microgreen demonstration where they get to touch the soil or the cocoa peat, try to mix, sow the seeds, kind of thing. When I'm talking about sustainable practices at home or collecting waste, what kind of waste we are collecting, so showing kind of things. Like for example, I'm collecting multi-layered plastics from schools. I'll show kids like what can be done with that multi-layered plastic. So writing pads, I'll show them the sample piece, and they'll be like, "Oh wow, we never knew." And everyone goes like eyes sparkle with like a wow factor. So these small things do work to to set a connect and bring them more into the story and to more understanding the whole concept.
Fantastic. It's nice you touched upon that. That gives us a nice segue into the next thing that I wanted to ask. So you mentioned about various solutions that you've talked about, right? Now, coming to the group as a whole, if we want to get into real life sustainability, what are some of the daily actions that we can take to ensure that we minimize our environmental footprint and become real life sustainable practitioners?
For sure. Uh, I mean, there are very simple steps as well. There are few steps which will take a lot of effort. So composting is a process where you have to think and make up your mind, and you have to also see if your family members are okay with it or not. Okay, but few things just like say plastic bag, very basic. Everyone knows about it. Every board, every banners talks about it. अपना थैली मतलब अपना कपड़े का बैग लेके आओ या अपनी थैली लेके आओ. Plastic ban है. मतलब it's not working out clearly even
Sure.
after the ban, even after so many warnings. And it's not that we don't know. Every one of us know that everyone's working at places like really good, intellectually invested in it, This is a very simple thing. Conceptually, they know, but in the hustle of daily routine life, they are missing out the point. Okay, this is a very integral thing. We should avoid it. But how do we do it? If I go to a shop from office, I don't have an extra bag with me for sure. I
Right.
have to take things home. So I'll take the plastic bag and I'll come back home. What could be the solution to this? Just put extra few bags in your side pocket of your office bag, probably. When you return bag, you go to the shop, you will be clicked, okay, that small tiny plastic bag already stuffed in the corner of my bag. I'll use that.
Right.
So that's how I also started. I started keeping my bag in my two-wheeler, my four-wheeler. Few plastic bags are always stuffed in the door, in the diggy, in my all bags. So that kind of helped me. And eventually, what I did was, if I forget the bag, I won't bring the thing to my house. So I have to make a double trip, and that would be a stress on me. So next time I'll be like, oh, I have to take the bag, otherwise I'll have to go again. And sometime I would just stuff my pockets or just put carry it in my hands or kind of things. But now it's in habit, so when it becomes you are used to it, it's very cool. You don't feel it's kind of a burden on you. So that kind of works. And yeah.
Perfect. So how about other steps that you mentioned? For example, let's say composting. How does, it's a complex, somewhat complex thing to get started in. So how can someone who's starting with this get into composting or waste management and some of the practices that they can do daily without a lot of
Right.
effort? What are the things that you recommend?
Right. Like you mentioned, like, right, Neto, otherwise I would have just focused on composting. But waste segregation is like really simple thing. I'm not sure why people aren't able to cope with that, because खाना आपका किचन में बन रहा है, it's on your kitchen platform. All the kitchen waste would be on your kitchen platform. You are
Right.
you're collecting that waste, of course, in one uh, utensil, one dustbin. In the whole process, cooking process, all your kitchen waste is just at one place. Towards the end, when you're cleaning your kitchen, you take that kitchen waste and you put it in the dustbin then.
Right.
Right? Why can't you keep that kitchen waste in that particular vessel or bowl or different dustbin? Why do you have to go and put it in the main big dustbin? Let the main big dustbin be for another kind of waste, which is like bottles, wrappers. We usually call it as dry waste, because kitchen waste is wet because of the moisture.
Mm-hmm.
Other waste, it doesn't have any kind of water, moisture, so it's simply dry. So आपने आधा काम तो खुद ही कर दिया है, and you are complicating it further just by taking one waste and going to put it with the another waste. So that's like very simple thing which everyone can do. If dry waste is handed over to the waste collectors or the recyclers, it's very easy. Most of the, not most of the things, but yeah, many things are easily recyclable in all cities across India. Then kitchen waste, you have composting. uh it's not a complex process. It's just like it looks complex because it looks lot of work. It looks like lot of things are required to set up the composting system. But I'll suggest that looking to a composting process or just interacting with someone who is already composting makes more sense, makes the process easy to understand and steps clearer. So, engaging in kind of a composting workshop or visiting someone who is already composting in your city, looking at their compost spaces definitely helps. And good part is like number of cities are doing these composting workshops at different times all around the year. If not, online workshops are also available now. If not, YouTube videos bhar bhar ke wo dekh lo. If there are doubts, reach out to me. I'm there. So yeah.
That's true.
Seeing
But
is
is this
believing is the concept here. To break that complex, the barrier, yes.
right? Absolutely. So, is this something that requires a lot of, when people talk about, so these are a couple of things that you mentioned about, right? And we'll touch upon other solutions as we go along. You mentioned something simple as having a bag, carrying a bag with you at all times, making sure that that is distributed across places, having a system in place for that, having a system in place in the kitchen to make sure waste segregation others happen. So what once you talk about this, what are the challenges? Again, people say that they're not able to translate their intention into actions. Again, is it because they feel it's too complex to do, or that they don't want to take effort, or what's holding people back in that sense?
So, this kitchen waste thing is always a problem for people, right? They are like, how to keep it there? There will be flies, there will be odor, and there will be all sorts of things. So, there's a simple process to it. You take a container which has a lid. You open the lid, you put your kitchen waste, you cover it with the lid. You did it for your lunch process. After you have cleaned your kitchen, after lunch, you just head out to the compost bin and empty your vessel there. There are no flies, there's no odor, there's nothing happening around. It will take hardly 1 minute doing this whole process of moving out to your balcony or to your garden or to your terrace to empty that, right? But people have that kind of a hesitance. Okay, I don't want to keep it there. I'll put it in the black bin liner so I cannot see it. If I cannot see it, then it's gone.
Right.
Right. So
I understand.
that's one thing.
Perfect.
Another few barriers, I think intent is one thing, major thing. Like giving you a very simple example again, like these carrying your own water bottles.
Yeah.
It's we, I, attending so many climate conferences and workshops. To be very true, everyone will come up with those 200 ml Bisleri bottles, and that's like a very kind of turn off point. Okay, you are talking about climate saving solutions, everything like that, and what's up with these plastic bottles? At least
Right.
the audience which currently understands what climate change is and already working for solutions for climate change will definitely understand if you don't provide them with 200 ml plastic bottles.
Right.
Or maybe you write, Nietzsche, bring your own water bottles, or something. Innovations and creative thinking can be applied to this particular thing, but no one's doing it because it's in set standard. The meeting is in IHC, the meeting is in some fancy place, and they are very careful about hygiene and everything, so they'll keep those 200 ml plastic bottles. What goes behind it afterward? You are unnecessarily generating waste.
Yeah.
Waste is again an a link to carbon emissions. We all know that. So intent is one as well.
Right.
And here I was telling you, when I was in the beginning, I was telling you, if I am applying it at home, I make sure I apply it to my work as well. This is
Right.
how it will translate. If one person, if let's say event coordinator of this particular event is practicing at home himself, he would make sure there are no 200 ml bottles for a crowd of 200 people who will probably, one person will have 4 to 5 bottles across 5, 6 hours.
Right. That's right. Very interesting. Ajay, on that, I have a couple of very interesting suggestions that come up from the attendees. So, right. So, how do we translate again? So, fairly intent is understood. How do we then translate it to action? Right. First is from Shilp, who essentially says that is it possible to actually make a monetary, is it make a monetary difference? Is it possible to pay people to make social and ecologically desirable behavior? The second suggestion is that maybe monetary is a bit too much. Can we do some sort of a symbolic suggestion? I think it was Chidambaram who mentioned that can we give a potted plant, saying that based on if you segregate certain amount of volume, we reward you by giving a potted plant as a sort of a symbolic gesture of what you're doing. And Nivedita was saying that rather than that, a third suggestion would be like, can it be giving celebrating role models and success models by who are already doing something huge in the communities, so and making that sort of cool or aspirational. So what are your suggestions to responses to these?
So I'm with the monetary kind of a thing. I'm not sure who's gonna give such monetary rewards to everyone who want to, and what is the limit to it? Like, if I say I'll give you 50 rupees if you're not using plastic bags for whole 1 month, does that 50 rupee note value you much? No, I'll be busy in my daily hustle, right?
Mm-hmm.
For convenience, we don't actually look at the savings like 50 rupees, 100 rupees, 200. We won't in our daily hustle unless and
Mm-hmm.
until we understand that kind of a concept, right? A potted plant celebrating kind of makes sense. So, Number of projects which have been successful in India about waste management and these sustainable practices have been have involved community by celebrating and rewarding them, by giving them a social status and motivating, inspiring them, putting them in the model, like role model scenario, like you are doing such a great thing, you are like inspiration for the society, elevating their spirits. That have worked best. So there are case studies from Indore, the cleanest city of India, where community leaders have been involved, community members have been involved. They have celebrated the clean streets and volunteered for cleaning it. So self-esteem for cleanliness have been built in there by various activities. So that has worked out well. So yes, behavior change through these processes can have these kind of celebratory, rewarding, socially status, social proofs kind of model embedded in it.
That might, you're saying that might make more sense than just a monetary reward, because if someone
For sure.
doing it is ultimately has, rewards that
Yes.
more than just a monetary impact.
Yes.
All
And
right.
monetary has its own problem. First, I think people won't value it. That's the biggest. How much money you can give to one person for doing composting? We
Mm-hmm.
have distributed free compost bins as well. People haven't
Mm-hmm.
valued it.
Mm-hmm.
A compost bin cost around 1,500 to 2,500. So unless that
Understand.
intent follows, and yeah.
Perfect. All right, Anjali. So, are there anything else, any other practical solutions that we can do that you come across, that people can make, include them and incorporate them in their daily actions apart from these?
For sure. So, I also got an opportunity to work with Ashish Bhai. He's PRM 33, our just immediate senior batch. So we worked on a, like you also mentioned in the beginning, we worked on a handbook for mindful consumption, Eco Bliss. So that we have tried to bring in all the facets of life, different, and tried to narrow down it to 3, 4 pointers where you can easily adopt and then proceed, advance further. So we call that book as Eco Bliss, and probably I'll just pick few things from there and quickly share what and why of these. So this is how it
Yeah,
looks, though if not blurred. Share the link later. So if I have open, it has like sections around like how to reduce plastics in your daily life, right?
sure.
And how you can do it while you are going for shopping, right? So simple thing, buy in bulk. If you're going to purchase Maggie packets,
Right,
don't take that small 10 rupees wala Maggie packets, rather take that 4 and 6 family pack. So the amount of plastic which goes into the bigger pack is equivalently lesser than what will go into 10 rupees wala Maggie packet. You
sure.
are buying ketchup sachets, don't buy it. Rather buy a glass bottle for ketchup. Glass bottle is recyclable and number of types. Sachets would end up in your waste line, landfill forever, leach into the soil, into the water and whatnot.
Right.
Probably, right? So, few tips like plastic bag is something which is like must while like shopping, how you can ignore. So keep a small cloth bag, stuffed bag. Now so there are fancy things, foldable bags, you put it, you look stylish, you do like utility kind of a product.
Right.
So if you are a tea drinker, I'll okay, this comes from a health perspective as well. If you are regular tea or coffee drinker and you prefer those plastic cups when you go to a chai ka tapri or even in your offices or spaces where you are traveling, so I keep a foldable steel cup. I don't have it be at this place, so
Sure.
it's just like this is small. It opens up into your proper chai ka cup. You take your chai in that, you drink, you maybe wash it with water, fold it back, and it's this small, put it in your bag. Right? Now, it came to me as a sustainability factor. I don't want to use plastic cups. Plastic is yay, plastic is wo. But in the process, I realized plastic cups are again, the paper cups are again lined with wax. There is a debatable research about that wax when comes in contact with hot beverages, leaches those chemicals.
Sure.
Now, if I'm pouring hot chai, drinking that chai, thinking, oh, I'm also ingesting some microplastic or wax kind of a thing, it doesn't make me happy for sure. So, just a small switch carrying that kind of, or maybe your cup, that's okay if you're fine with carrying your cup. Just Avoid those plastic cups. Waste one, health second. What else do you want? So anything
Right.
which comes to saving environment is also helping your health. Very simple example quickly. So that those things, the garam thermocol bowls, we love to eat them street side food like garam garam Maggi and garam
Right.
kuch bhi acha. And that thermocol is also leaching chemicals into your food. After
Mm.
knowing that, I have never ever ate Maggie outside my home, just being scared of that thermocol bowl. So if you start also looking at these things as your health connection, probably that works as well. People ordering food from outside, so sabzis and bhajis coming into those black plastic dabbas, ekdam hot pouring curries put into those black dabbas. Again, plastic is being leached and it comes home, you microwave it in those dabbas, you eat it. Health. Forget environment this time. It's all health.
Sure.
So there are a few things like that.
Right. So I think EcoBliss is, as you mentioned, contains a lot more suggestions where you can go ahead and make them
Yes.
changes in your
So,
daily life as well,
hmm.
right?
Also, interestingly, there's a carbon footprint exercise in that book, which,
Okay.
okay, this is very interesting. So, when I was in this whole journey and I was doing all these smaller things and doing all these events, every time I
Right.
would question myself, people are flying in flights, there's a rocket going to Mars, and so many things happening. What the why I'm suffering, like why I'm taking this pain, why I'm even making so much efforts or making so much mindful conscious decisions about what I'm doing and why I'm living like this. How does it
Right.
even matter? It's not even contributing like tiny bit of it. It's not.
Yeah.
So
Can I just pause you here? Because again, essentially when you talk about this, sorry to interrupt, but essentially whenever we talk about this, there are two counter perspectives, just like we're doing in back in IRMAn. There are two counter perspectives that usually come up when we talk about real life sustainability. The first is, is this the actual best way to make a difference? Because considering, as you mentioned, 80 to 85% of the emissions are from corporations. And if we make a difference, is it anyway moving the needle, right? Or is it just a way to make us feel good about ourselves rather than actually making any difference, right?
right,
Um, the second counter perspective is that even if you say that individual actions can make a difference, uh, are those individual actions about more about making sure plastic is reused or whatever? And whereas all your big carbon emissions is going to be in the number of flights that you take, which are probably unavoidable due to the work that you have. So you said, so
true.
these two counter perspectives that come across, and what is your response to that?
For sure. Okay, so both are very, very overlapping questions. The answer is same. So when I was doubting my actions, how I'm even contributing, and when people cross question, oh, why are you even doing this much? Industries are polluting. Why should I do it? Industries won't stop anyways, right? Why doesn't government ban the plastic or shut down the plastic bags manufacturing plants? Why? I'll go and bring it. Ask them to stop giving it to the market only. No. So these are like very frequent things coming across. So flights, work flights, of course. If we just assume, like say, if there's a distance of let's say 1500 kilometers or something like that, if you are taking over a flight, the carbon emissions associated would be around 180 kgs approx, right?
Okay.
For similar kind of a distance, if you are taking a train, say you have even taken a second AC train, the carbon emissions would be approximately 60 kgs. So
Okay.
180 to 60, there's a good amount of gap, which is 120 kgs carbon emissions.
Right.
So probably I have an option from Bharuch to Delhi. I have an option of a train from Bharuch to Delhi. I'll take a train, and I have an option of taking a flight from maybe traveling to Baroda and taking flight to Delhi.
Sure.
If I choose a train, I have reduced 120 kg of my carbon emissions. Right? What does this 120 kg signifies here? Okay, look at like this: one tree absorbs 20 kgs of carbon dioxide in 1 year.
Right.
We say plant trees, it will solve all the problems, but a big tree just absorbs 20 kgs of carbon emissions here. If I
Sure.
convert that figure, I have reduced just 120 kgs of carbon. A tree absorbs only 20 kgs. Given this
Mm.
number, I have, let's say, indirectly planted 6 trees.
Right.
just during one of my travel.
Sure.
And that travel was convenient for me because Bharuch to Delhi in direct train exists. So I can
Sure.
afford that. There's
Right.
a relatively less time, probably overnight. Given I have to travel 40 hours, I'll also prefer a flight, right? But just balancing few things, just being conscious of where I can take a flight or where I can avoid a flight would probably help, right?
Understood.
Because I have seen there are people and places and situations where there are alternate options where you can actually save on these emissions, but you won't, just because you are used to, okay, office de raha hai, office is anyways reimbursing, we'll fly.
Right. Right.
So these are few
And
things, and this is like flight you talked about, which is associated with the huge carbon emissions. Let's talk about something very small. uh, let's talk about plastic bag again, because we have been talking about it like over the
right.
period. If let's say I don't bring plastic bags, on an average, a person would end up bringing two plastic bags in their homes every day.
Right.
That sums around, if we see yearly consumption, around 730, 750, 730 approx. Okay. 730 plastic bags are there now.
Mhm.
1 kg plastic produces approx 200 bags. So let's say for my 730 plastic bags, I will be requiring 4 kgs of plastic in total. Now
Okay.
emissions associated with this plastic productions is like 6 kg for 1 kg plastic productions.
Right.
That translates into 24 kg for my 800, 730, 750 bags.
Right.
ठीक है?
Got it.
If I just convert this figure again, so okay, I say I haven't used plastic this whole year. I haven't bought any 730 plastic bags at my home this year. Either I have used like a reusable cloth bag, or again and again used the same plastic big bags or whatever. I have planted one tree in this year without doing nothing, just avoiding plastic.
Mm,
I haven't
got
even
it.
went out the garden. I haven't went down the plastic like planting sites, but I have just reduced it. Also,
Understood.
the conversions and data I'm talking about are like available on YouTube as well through these channels of Bridge for Change. So people can actually go into that. It will give more proper understanding of what's happening. And at this point, I understood, okay, even my smallest of action are kind of linked with an impact. And from there on, I got more, power of, okay, it's okay, you don't want to do it, you don't do it, but you just don't question why I'm doing it. I know I'm contributing in a way, and I would love to keep contributing that way.
Right.
So that's how
Perfect.
it works.
So as I understand, what you're saying essentially is that little actions can have big effects. Try to be mindful of things and reduce your emission wherever possible. If not, that's, bear
Exactly.
with it
So
and don't feel guilty about it.
yeah, zero emissions are not possible. The way we are living right now, it's like close to impossible. Very true.
Right.
But just being mindful, just buy less one jeans in a year, you will be saving like 33 kgs of carbon dioxide emission, which is again equivalent to like your
Mm,
1.5 trees planted. एक जीन्स
right.
मैंने कम खरीदा पर एक पेड़ लगा दिया, मतलब क्या बुरा क्या है इसमें? I was just mindful. So that is one.
Understood. Cool. So, Anjali, we have a couple of questions before we do this and
Sure.
count points as well, right? So, it'd be very interesting to bring that up. So, I think you mentioned, right? So, like essentially, wherever possible, choose the lower emission route, like for example, changing away from a flight to a train or whatever. And but the market does still operate that flight, right? So
Oh
that
yes.
emissions is still going in. So, is it really then again still making the difference as you speak?
Okay. So it's demand and supply,
Right.
right? If we are demanding it, so market is ready to supply anyways. And also market is ready to push it through. The word consumerism comes from that, right? They are pushing
Right.
it through. Black Friday sales, yay sale, buy one, get one. And I'll request if everyone who have joined this call and who would be seeing this video, they should see this Netflix documentary by now. So I saw it and I was mind boggled. I'm like, these people are crazily pushing stuffs on us, and it's like insane destruction of resources and money just in in sense of making profits. And we understand that we have reached a level and understanding that yes, companies are for profit. Okay, economy has to work, right? But economy can work circularly as well. Currently
Hmm.
economy is working linear. You produce, you
Right.
use, you dispose, you dump, right? But what about circularity? If the same things are happening in a very circular way, then there's very less harm to the environment. There are job
Right.
generation, there are things happening, there will always alternatives which will pop up and come up and absorb everything. But
Right.
that process of thinking has to evolve to circularity.
Perfect. And one of the key components of circularity is naturally waste collection and the process that you're doing, right? And
Right.
we've got a few questions specifically with respect to the logistics associated with waste collection. For example,
Right.
I think one of the questions was, is it possible, can just as households collect news for recycling, can waste be professionally bought by third parties? Or is it, how does that economy work as far as you're aware?
Yes, yes. So, of course, the Pastiwala model, the local Pastiwalas, they collect most of the dry waste which is generated in a household.
Hmm.
Mostly they target the high value waste where they take it to their small shop, they aggregate the waste and they'll give it to the dealer. The dealer then gives it to the recycler. So, recycling perspective, there are everything is almost currently recyclable exception to few things. Like for example, even thermocol is recyclable. But you won't believe me. In Bharuch as a city, there's no one who is dealing with this thermocol waste. Reason
Right.
being the volume is huge and the weight is less. They don't want to invest in that. It's not a very high value product. But wherein Surat has a thermocol recycler. Thermocol is recycled into PVC, which is again a pellet kind of a thing, plastic pellet kind of a thing, which is again used to make those thermocol bowls. But
Right.
but there's a recycling process which is associated. Logistically, it's tough because of the volume and the weight issue.
Right.
Another thing is multi-layered plastics, those chips and biscuits ka packet. Now what they have done, there's an aluminum lining inside and the plastic backing, the front printed. Now that's difficult to separate those sheets there. So recycling is not possible. So
Right.
people again try to melt and mold it or shred and give it a shape and try to reuse it in different kind of models. But again, it's very limited in India. It's like happening at only few places. Otherwise, it's being dumped and burned, and that's the whole scenario. So
Right.
e-waste is something which India is working like e-waste is increasing.
Right.
Companies are playing around. Of course, we know no device would like mobile device would last more than 3 to 4 years, possibly if I'm like very careful using it, probably. Even then,
Hmm.
it would just die of its own.
Right.
Companies are playing around it. E-waste is crazy market. Gold, copper, all is precious, all sells for high value. Aggregation is difficult because pastiwalas don't know how to extract those kind of gold and copper, so they'll try to get out a few items out of it and aggregate and sell it to the dealers.
Right.
So the gold extracting process of this e-waste, again, it's not present in India right now. There's one plant in Belgium where it goes and gets recycled because the
Right.
whole recycling process is hazardous, lethal,
Hmm.
and person who are involved in that process, उनका life 10 साल कम हो जाता है normal person से.
Right.
So that's kind of a deadly task. So no one wants to invest and build around it. The Belgium plant is automated and hence they are able to manage it. So most of these precious kind of a thing, the circuits and all are again aggregated and sent there. Lot of value in there. But again, logistic is an issue. If I'm in Bharuch, how do I collect all this? Send it to a bigger city like Surat. They'll probably have dealers. Then dealers
Hmm.
would send it to Delhi because
Right.
Delhi is hub for that. And then they send it further. So pretty long chain. And because there are so many middlemen involved, the margins are reducing.
Hmm.
So the person at the ground is not willing to collect for such a low margin.
Understood. So, is there any state or city that you think in India is doing fairly okay in that process, or do you think generally across the country it's broken?
It's broken. Indore has been emerging with a lot of success stories.
Right.
for a lot of waste items. So that is one thing which people are eyeing on. Then Surat, but systems are more or less broken, like in all cities, exceptions,
Ah,
Indore.
all right. Perfect. So the couple of final questions that we have received are, with respect to the behavior change itself. We touched extensively on that and how do we do that. So the question, there are fantastic suggestion from the listeners who say essentially that, you know, um, that some of the things that you mentioned, right? For example, carrying a plastic bag or getting those things done. Those are again those require high motivation to get started or, to get doing, to make systems around that as possible. So is it better to, are you having more success trying to get a, education into young people and training them early rather than changing behaviors much later? What has your, experience been so far with it?
Train early. That's kind of working for better, because kids have those power of making it a point that their parents do listen to them by all kind of tricks. So and they are very flexible and they are understanding the concept, and the good part is everyone is a nature lover, pet friendly person, so they do relate with those. Oh, my nature is going to like such a bad shape if I don't stop doing these activities, so they kind of reciprocate well. There's another thing building in children is like anxiety about these topics, and it's very
Right.
real because
Right.
it's communicated in a wrong way. It won't help the purpose, but it would bring anxiety into that kid. So it's also
Right.
very important how you interact with those kids and how you like tell them what's happening. But it's definitely difficult to change the mindset of the people who are already doing few things from so many years. It's not that they won't change, they have to
Yeah.
change, because if we wait, the younger ones will grow up and then bring the change, then we are doomed.
Right.
So we will have to start making change anyways at the senior level now. So it's equally important to train both the sections, not train, I would say, to sensitize both the
Right.
sections. But yes, younger ones are flexible enough.
And do you think that process should start, somewhere in middle school, somewhere in primary school, or, what is the right time to be,
Middle school
there's
is
no
a
right
right
time to
time.
take action, but what is, okay.
Middle school is best because it's also right time to take action. They understand the thing and they know how to take action around it. Primary is too early. They understand the concept, but they're not very able to relate. Oh, how do I navigate through it at home anyways? So
So Anjali, I'm just conscious of time here as well.
yeah,
But essentially, I think I've fairly covered all the questions and the suggestions that have come across. You've had some really interesting and really, really interesting questions, some fantastic suggestions
right.
there here as well. So, but just to give the listeners a last final chance to before we wrap this up, if are there any more questions? If there are, you can just probably unmute yourself and ask that to Anjali before we close.
Yeah, Anjali, this is a very interesting topic, and also I was inspired actually. Yeah. So, what are the difficulties that you face? Just one question that I have asked earlier. What are the difficulties that you face in creating awareness as well as, uh, doing the real job there?
Right. So one major thing, like we have been doing a lot of activities around awareness for waste segregation and like composting. So when we do a lot of work around waste segregation, the next question is, okay, I will segregate the waste, but the collector will come and mix it anyways in his truck, like that small divided vehicle, blue and green vehicle. If you talk to this blue and green vehicle person, and they will say, I'll take it to the bigger collection center and I'll dump it all together. So there's no system at the end, and this is what even public is seeing. It's not like hidden, everything is transparent here now. So public is like, if it's not happening there, nothing is happening with my segregated waste, why should I even put an effort to do it? So the whole awareness factor just crashes there. Why even we are awareing them to segregate when nothing is happening around? So if there is action happening, and that's where we started this waste collection drive while we were doing the awareness part. That's why we wanted to close the loop with this kind of an action here. So I think kind of your answer, this is the big challenge here with the systems in place.
Perfect. Is there anything else? Any other questions? Any final comments?
I think
Cool. I think, yeah.
There are
Yeah.
one, two questions, Shriyari. I'll just quickly try to answer here.
Yeah.
So, wet waste professionally are in India, wet waste isn't bought yet. So there are models where wet waste is being collected, just like they pay the user fee for the apartment, the whole maintenance fee. There's a cost involved to it. Wet waste buying process hasn't started yet. I'm not aware of, as per my knowledge. So if it happens, people will definitely start saving up the wet waste, and the whole process behind this is when wet waste is turned into compost, the kitchen waste is turned into compost. It would be in bulk. Now, where to dispose this bulk compost, right? Nutritional value is less than the vermicompost. So if we say we will send it to farmers places and farmers will buy it, farmers won't be much interested in buying this city compost. There have been projects going on around this as well. Now, as a private agency, why would I even put so much efforts if it's not making me any sales and profits at the end? So again, uh, it's not completing the loop there with wet waste. But if technologies like biomethanation and everything comes up within the city and even the government can buy it, so it can work. This is working like smoothly in Indore.
Perfect. Cool. So I
Oh,
think that's about it, Anjali. I think we've covered almost all the other questions.
right. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So, Anjali, thank you. This has been an absolutely fascinating conversation. And, I'll just try to, capture what you've said, the essence of it in a couple of minutes, the best I can. I think essentially the crux of the conversation is about, is it, worth taking some of these small actions into your life? It absolutely is. There is a genuine carbon footprint reduction and environmental impact reduction associated with those actions. So we should definitely try to incorporate that. Second, not all choices will be perfect. You try to do this to the best of your ability, and keeping that mindset and constantly improving on that is far more important than anything else over there. Third, there are actual practical actions that you can take. Many of that Anjali has already mentioned in terms of how we can reduce plastic, how we can do waste reduction, how we can manage composting, or get into that if you have a chance. But a lot more is detailed in Anjali's book, a book that Anjali has co-authored called Bliss. And finally, again, if you're interested, there are groups that are doing workshops
Right.
on this. So get involved in those conversations. It'll be, once you get started, you can understand what of that can you best adapt in your life and continue those conversations. So it's essentially, I think, covers most of this conversation.
Surely. But thank you, Shriyari, to making it so more interesting, anyways, and definitely the platform for giving me this chance to talk, and to the people who have just joined and listened and being attentive. And I'm feel so delighted for this. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Anjali. Thank you for your sharing, taking out the time, sharing the experience, and we can all see that your energy and passion for this is truly infectious. So I'm sure that people have, whether listening in right now or watching later in YouTube, will have actionable insights that they can, take back with them. And yeah, with that, I think hopefully we'll close. Many thanks to everyone who's joined in and who's going to watch it later. And a very, very special thanks to the whole IA team, especially Krishna and Ritesh, for setting this up. Hope you all have a fabulous end to 2024, and here's to great 2025.
Thank you.
Krishna,
okay.
if
So
there's something.
yeah. On that note, I would like to thank Anjali ma'am for sharing her invaluable insights on this topic, real life sustainability. We actually appreciate your time and willingness to share this knowledge with the IRMA fraternity. And I would also like to extend my gratitude to our moderator, Sri Hari sir, for beautifully guiding this conversation and making the session engaging and informative. To our audience, thank you for investing your time in today's session. Your participation and engagement are what make these sessions wonderful. With your permission, we'll conclude today's session, and the recording will be uploaded to YouTube, allowing those who missed the session to benefit from this rich discussion. Thank you once again, and have a nice day.
Thank you. On part of audience, I also want to thank you, Anjali. Can I read your books online? Can you send that link? Or
Yes,
the book
surely.
you bought, can you send me the link? Okay, I'm interested in that. Okay, please.
Surely. I'll do that. The book
Okay.
is known as Eco Bliss, and it's also available on Amazon.
Okay, Eco Bliss. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll stop the recording now.